All right, all right. Welcome, folks. Welcome to PackReacts. It's a fun time to see the Packers not do terrible. Just kidding. They're doing pretty bad this year. Hopefully they turn around with Aaron Rodgers doing something well for the wide receivers. Gotta hope it, but no, we are back. Finally, it's been a while for us to have PackReacts with having school to do with my college and Mike with work, and we have a special guest tonight, Carson. Thank you, Carson.
Welcome, Carson. We're happy to have you on.
Thanks for having me.
Before we get into our topics tonight, Carson, how did you become a Packers fan?
All right, so my dad was actually a Packers fan before I was even born. So naturally, I was just born into being a Packers fan. I don't live in Wisconsin or anything, but I just grown up a Packers fan. A lot of people call me a bandwagon for it, but it's not how it is. So yeah,
Nice.
No, that's interesting. So I actually have a similar situation. Jeremy too. Actually, I think we're kind of all Packer transplants, not by choice, but by kind of just where we were born into. My dad was also a Packers fan when, before I was born, and I kind of, I'm from New York. Jeremy's from Pennsylvania. So, kind of when I grew up, I was the only Packers fan where I, in my school. And that was kind of in the time when we lost to the Giants in the the NFC Championship game with Favre throwing an interception. Not great times, and that kind of really spurred my love for the Packers because I had people on my case about it, just like really giving me a hard time about the Giants. So being the Packers, so that really if I was a Packers fan beforehand, I really became a big Packers fan after that. So, it's interesting to hear that, you also have a similar situation, not living in Wisconsin, of being kind of a, sole Packers fan. I don't know if you have any friends that are also Packers fans, but
yeah.
Cool. No, that's great. So I guess it's probably a good, bonding experience between you and your dad. Do you have any brothers or any other family members that are Packers fans?
I have two sisters, and then I have two brothers, and both my brothers are really young, and then my two sisters are older, so they don't really do football stuff. But they would say that they're Packers fans if you ask them, but they don't really know anything about it.
Agree. No, that's good. I mean, it's definitely a good thing. I'm sure you watch every game with your dad, right? On the weekends. Yeah. So that's a great. Same thing. That was a great bonding experience between me and my dad too, because we had no friends to watch a game with, so you gotta watch it with your parents. That's great.
For my experience, mine's like the same as you guys, where I was born into the Packers watching the Super Bowl against the Steelers in 2010, and that was like the first time I actually loved football, watching football with my dad. I remember what was the most famous play? Excuse me. Most famous play I watched with my dad was when Aaron Rodgers runs in for a touchdown against Chicago Bears in the championship game. And that was like the bonding moment where we started becoming Packers fans. We've been Packers fans since. And we always loved the good times, we supported the bad times. We're always watching games together every week. Even if we're not like in person. Like for me, I'm at college right now. So we do like Zoom or like teamwork online for a Packers game to watch. So yeah. It's fun doing it. It's fun. All right. Let's get into the first topic, which is this upcoming week of Packers Cowboys. How are we feeling about them Cowboys?
You want to go first?
Kick us off, Carson? Yeah, you kick us off. You're the guest.
All right. I wouldn't say I'm feeling good about this week, but I wouldn't say it's impossible to win this game because Dallas is a Texas team. It's in Lambeau, coming into the cold Lambeau field, something that they're not used to at all. The Packers are coming off a 5-game losing streak. They're going to want to win. If they lose this game, they got to pretty much win out the rest of the season. So there's definitely a chance that we could win this game, but the odds are definitely against us.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that the weather probably will help the Packers a little bit. I'm looking at the weather now. It seems it's going to be 37 on Sunday with a low of 23, so it's going to be pretty chilly. And obviously, Dallas is in a dome that has a half of a roof but can close it, right? So they're obviously not used to that kind of weather. But I don't know. I don't see any way that the Packers win this game, especially with, Parsons being a beast. And I don't know if you guys followed the draft all that much, but I saw that coming from a mile away. He looked really good in Penn State, where he played college. But I think Rodgers is going to have a lot of issues, staying upright with him coming in that defensive front of the Cowboys. And I just really don't have much faith in the Packers defense, especially sans Rashawn Gary, who unfortunately tore his ACL last week. Not great. And honestly, I was saying this before, I don't know really how much I want to win this game. I just think it's prolonging the inevitable of us not going to make the playoffs anyway. So I think we're probably definitely the worst team here. We do have at home going for us, and I guess the weather, but I just think the Cowboys overall much better team. Hate to say it, probably better coach too. And I don't know. I just don't see much of a chance that we have here.
Yeah. I don't see much of a chance for us at all, especially where we're at. We've lost so many guys. Gary gets hurt. Defense is now like a top 10 defense at this point. Offense keeps struggling. We gained so many injuries. I don't see much faith unless Aaron Jones runs all over that Cowboys defense. That's the only chance I see. But I really don't see him winning this game. I hope we do, but at this point, it's like they gotta get it going right now. Like they can. This is a must win. If they don't win this, then you gotta win all your other games, which is a very hard thing to do. Can they run the table? That's very hard to say. Given our schedule, where we're going to have to face some very good teams. So playoffs not looking like it, and upcoming Sunday game, which I don't think we have a shot at winning it, but hopefully they get it. I mean, you're going against your former head coach, Mike McCarthy, which would be a fun reunion to see, but it definitely would have been better to see the Packers better. It would have been a fun more match, but yeah, I don't see the Packers win it, but yeah.
Well, one thing about this game is, for one, Ezekiel Elliott is questionable. So if he doesn't play, that pretty much eliminates, outside of Tony Pollard, eliminates our run defense issues. And apart from our run defense, our defense, like as a whole, has looked very good. The only reason that they've given up a lot of points or given up long drives is because our offense can't convert. And so our offense ends up being on the field for 7 minutes or 10 minutes. And then they give the ball over, and our defense is on the field for a long time because either Packers have long drives or they go 3 and out because our offense is terrible. So if we go 3 and out, they kick the ball back to our defense, and we're right back on the field. So I think coming out, just like the Bills game, first possession in the Bills game, our defense looked great, forced the Bills to a 3 and out. Nobody expected that. Then as the game went on, our defense got tired because our offense couldn't do anything. So I think if we take our time, we have long possessions, and our defense is on the field for a short amount of time every time, then I think there's a good chance that we could at least keep the game close. So,
I totally agree with that. I think the offense, the defense needs to be helped out. I think a lot of people are giving the defense a lot of issues this year. I think the defense has clearly been the stronger of the two, offense, defense. I think the real issue is the defense had so much high expectations coming into the season, and we all kind of knew the offense wasn't going to be a top-notch offense compared to last year without Devontae Adams. So that was kind of expected. I think to the extent how bad they were, I don't know if anyone really expected that, but people expected this defense to be like a Super Bowl caliber defense, and I did too. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but this is not a Super Bowl caliber defense in my opinion, and I think they're underachieving, and that's kind of where a lot of the frustration has came in regards to the defense. Also, now you lose Rashawn Gary. That's your best defensive player outside of Kenny Clark. Jair, who honestly, Jair has looked a little bit shaky this year, in my opinion. Again, compared to the precedent he set, not compared to other people on the field. But, so to lose your best player on defense is obviously not ideal. But I agree. I think that the defense can have success in this game, especially, like you said, if Zeke doesn't play. I think, Dak's probably going to have his way on this defense, especially Darnell Savage. Darnell Savage has got some flack in the media recently. I think it's completely deserved. He looks absolutely terrible. I think they're going to take advantage of him. I think they're going to, I think the Packers have trouble getting pass rush on the Cowboys without Gary now. Preston has not looked as good this year as he looked at last year. And I think he's going to have to step up. I think Jonathan Garvin's going to have to step up and Kingsley Enagbare to fill that Rashawn Gary hole. But yeah, I think ultimately it's up to this offense if they could get it turned around. And I don't see how the offense gets it turned around unless you completely hone in on, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, which LaFleur has not done.
Nope.
Or Rodgers is audibled out of every play. So the only game they did do that was against the Bills, and we had success, So hopefully they continue that mindset, but they didn't really do it against Detroit, and that was the one game that we should have won. So that's why I'm really very confident about it. But Jeremy, I'll let you go. You haven't really.
Yeah. Looking at the defense, it's like as you were mentioning, it's like the struggle. It's like, all right, yes, Zeke might be questionable, but Tony Pollard, he's the better running back. So that gives me question because they like Tony Pollard out in the backfield, like catching wise. That's a little bit question to me. Dak, he's still not himself yet, but he's getting back there. The one frustration I've always had on this defense is Jair Alexander not being on the top receivers most of the time. Like week one was Jefferson. He didn't play against Jefferson the entire time. There were other guys too, which was the annoyance of like when is Jair going to play on this top receiver? That was he play anything on Stephon Diggs, and we all wanted to match up, but that didn't happen. Going back to injuries, it's going to hurt us. Like Devontae Campbell, he out. Savage is not doing well. That's why I picked up Jonathan Abraham. It's not doing well for like. There's a bunch of holes for this defense which should be better. We definitely knew that the defense so much better than we definitely need the defense so much better than the offense. The offense they got to get going and it's question for Aaron Jones to see if it's going to happen. Crutches, question when he's going to play, but how much are you going to play? You're going to have A.J. Dillon run more or not? So that's where I'm questioning is like more of the offense. Like what is their like. Where are they going to do? Because there's so many holes. I'm questioning about this offense. Of like the offense can it be good for the one game or can be other stuff? The defense, I think we can be fine. It's just executing the offense. We have so much better, and we have to adapt to run at this point. I'll leave it at that.
No, I think you brought up some good points. I don't see how we block up that Cowboys defensive front. I think you're gonna have a field day, especially Micah Parsons. That guy's real good. I mean, I think we kind of hit on it. I think it's going to be an interesting game. I think I'll definitely be watching. I think I'll be watching every game. That's what I do. But I'm not going to go in expecting much. I think we have to keep our expectations reasonable, which is probably a loss. And hope for the best and expect the worst kind of thing. And that's kind of the mindset that we're going to have here on out. Because I do not think this is a playoff caliber team, if definitely not a Super Bowl caliber team. But
No.
I don't know. Carson, do you agree with that?
Well, one thing
feel free to push back. We'd love to hear.
One thing I would say about the Cowboys game coming up is that everybody that's played behind Rashawn Gary this season has played good. I don't know how to pronounce that one guy's name.
Kingsley Enagbare.
Yes, Enagbare. He is very good. The times that he has,
I absolutely agree.
He has like 3 sacks or something this season, and he's played very limited snaps. So if he comes in and plays how he's been playing, we still got Kenny Clark, we still got Wyatt, we still got Preston Smith. Our D-line is still healthy apart from Rashawn Gary. And our pass defense is ranked like 2nd in the league right now. It is just our run defense that is tearing this defense down. So I think CeeDee Lamb is their only like decent receiver. They have Michael Gallup, but he's been banged up. Noah Brown is questionable this week, so they don't even really have a wide receiver 3. I think our pass defense will be completely fine. I don't think Dak Prescott will really torch our defense how the past games have had with Josh Allen and even Taylor Heineke torched our defense. I don't think that's going to be the case this week. And so as long as our offense is just mediocre at least, I think that we'll have a chance to win this game because, for one, I think the Cowboys are overrated. Even though their record says otherwise, they're 6-2. Their defense is outstanding. It's still Aaron Rodgers every day. Samori Toure, he's very good. Amari Rodgers, it might not look like it on punt returns, but he's been solid as a receiver when he's been in the game. That one sideline catch he had against the Bills, very good catch. In the preseason, he had that nice screen catch for a touchdown. He's looked good when he's been at receiver. Allen Lazard, been playing good all season. Sammy Watkins, he's injured, didn't practice, so we don't know if he's really going to play. Christian Watson is very good when he's in the game. We can run him on jet sweeps. We can put him on motions. First play of the season, we sent him on a go route, and he almost scored a 75-yard touchdown. So there's plays like that where you see flashes of our offense that makes you think, okay, maybe we could figure this out. That's why we've had hope all season, because we see these different flashes from Dobbs or Watkins or Watson. And we're like, okay, maybe we could put this together at the end of the year. So right now, what better time than to put it on right now? This is a must-win game. Everybody knows it. We're going to come out with a different fire than we've been playing the last few weeks with all of our injuries, everything that's been going on. And honestly, I think that we will win this game. The Cowboys coming in the Lambeau. I know it's
injected to my veins. I love it.
I think it's a very winnable game. And if we just come out and execute, which we haven't been doing, I think we'll be fine.
Yeah.
I think you're bringing up a lot of good points. Sorry to cut you off, Jeremy, but I think what you made that really stood out to me is the flashes part of it. So I think you're totally right. I think there's a lot of talent, young talent on this offense, and I have liked what I've seen out of Amari Rodgers on a receiver, not on punt return, and I think Samori Toure, they probably have something there. But I think the Packers' challenge here is finding a reliable target, not just someone that's flashing here in, here out, and able to take all the pieces of the puzzle and be able to, stack it, have a play to Samari, then a play to Watson, a play to, Dubs just got hurt, but have a run and just kind of make it so it's a offense that runs smoothly and isn't just really struggling to get down the field. And I think that's kind of what we've seen. They haven't been able to, Rodgers has been forcing a lot recently is what I've seen, trying to make passes that don't exist or not taking the check down and trying to throw downfield. There was a few, shots on Twitter of the coach's camera where Rodgers had, I think, Tunyon right across the middle, and he threw to somebody, just basically threw the ball away. I don't know if you guys know stuff like that. Rodgers needs to be making that place. He's not, a young quarterback. He needs to be making that. And he needs to also stop checking out of these runs, I think, at the goal line. It was a play where I think Elton Jenkins had to it blocked beautifully. A.J. Dillon would have walked into the end zone, and he threw the ball for some reason. It was an option, and he threw the ball and threw it incomplete. And it was just, why are we not working within the offense? We know we don't have a really talented offense that's, veteran in the league. So we need to work within the plays that are out there, what we're practicing throughout the week, and not try to make something out of nothing. And I think Rodgers needs to take a step back and realize what he's working with. He's not working with Devontae Adams anymore. He's working with young players, and he needs to have more patience. I don't think he does. I think that's Rodgers' problem here is he's expecting everyone to be on his page, and this team, this offense is not on the same page as him, which makes sense, right? Rodgers has been in this league for how many years? He's almost 40 years old. He's playing with players that are our age, 20 in young 20s. And there's just going to be a disconnect there. So he needs to bring himself down to the other team so that we can act coherently and not just as a bunch of pieces running around and nothing gets accomplished. And I think that's where he is. His strong suit is not. And I think that's the problem we're at right now. I really think that's the problem with our offense is Rodgers not understanding what he has around him and lowering his play to them instead of trying to make them rise up to his play, which is not going to happen.
Well, one thing that I would say is about the different plays and Rodgers scrambling and all these different things is the first time Christian Watson got hurt mid-game. I think it might have been against the Bills, I think. But after that game, after they lost, Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur both said that they had tons of packages in that game for Christian Watson. And so he goes out in the first drive of that game, out for the game. Then that throws out tons of our plays that we were going to run. Same thing with the Lions game. I guarantee you going into that game after Christian Watson got cleared, they had those same amount of packages of plays because no defense has seen him yet because he was hurt. So they had that same amount of packages of plays. Then he gets hurt again. And so what now? Like, we don't have any of those plays again. And so Rodgers had to scramble. There had to be plays like random plays that they probably didn't practice throughout the week, like the David Bakhtiari play. I guarantee you they did not go into that game saying, all right, if we get the ball inside the 5-yard line, we're going to throw it to David Bakhtiari. Like, I don't think they did that. And so I think
I hope not. I hope not.
So these injuries to Romeo Doubs, first possession, guarantee you they had tons of plays written up for Doubs. Christian Watson goes down again. You have tons of players that are missing time, and we haven't really seen a complete game plan from Matt LaFleur from start to finish. And so coming into this week, you know who's going to play. You got Allen Lazard, Toure, Rodgers, Watkins, and Watson. If he comes up with a game plan for those guys and we don't have any injuries, this will be the first time in a long time that we will see Matt LaFleur's play calling in its real form from start to finish. So that's where I kind of have hope for all these plays that aren't working out and Rodgers scrambling to try to get guys open because we haven't really seen the full thing yet.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely knew this was going to be process of the offense. We knew Tony was not going to be like a top five offense. Like, get the new guys, process of like growing pain. We saw Watson 75 yards touchdowns right in the middle. It was annoying to watch, and it's still developing. But my question really to Matt, I've said it for weeks on my radio show, and I think I've said it on PackReacts before with Mike, that Matt LaFleur has to get over adversity. As you were mentioning with Christian Watson packages, like you can't just rely on one player, not just rely on that. These guys rely on multiple players. And you cannot just focus on one player. You got to keep adjusting to the game. You have to make the adversity adjustments because that is one concern I've always had with the Packers this past couple weeks. When we're faced with adversity, we can't overcome it. That's been the thing I've watched over this team is like how are we going to adjust the second half? We don't put up any points. First half, we don't do anything. Like this team's not playing right. You got to play both sides of the ball every stinking quarter. That's what I like to see is like how are we going to adjust because you see the defense. It won't let up any points in the second half. That's fine. But with the offense, it doesn't come clean. Doesn't get going. Like, we'll get on the run, we'll get towards the end zone. But then we saw against Lions, we can't score in the end zone. Like we have to execute and get those touchdowns quick and good. Whether it's a good team or bad, you got to get it no matter what. And one thing that kept me off about Rodgers last week was the last drive when it was like first and 10, and he had 10 more yards. He could have gone to save much more time and right for the goal line. He could have gone for 10 yards. Instead, he just kept chucking to the end zone. All four plays was annoying me. And he had multiple times where you could have scrambled or done one run play maybe. And like something like that is what was taking me off. Is like Rodgers does his own thing, which I love. But like where like this year especially, he doesn't make the right play. So like when he could have ran for 10 yards or something like that, or throw guy wide open, like you mentioned, Mike. That's what's taking me off. It's like make the adjustments, make those right plays instead of thinking in mind. Don't don't double check. Like just go to it. Just trust your gut. Like something like that. Where I like to see Adam LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers as a team, especially to come together about it.
Yeah. No, I think that's all good points. I think the adversity comment you made is really the crux of my issue. You know, Jerry, I'm not trying to shit on Matt LaFleur here in any case, but I do like him a lot. But one thing that's really a red flag for me in this team led by him is the adversity issue, because I mean we've seen this in the past where the Packers have gone down big and have not been able to fix and course correct and say, hey, something went wrong. You were saying, Carson, about Christian Watson getting hurt. Like, all right, that's great, right? Like, yeah, I mean obviously it's not great, but I'm saying like that sounds like a great excuse. Like we had a lot in the game plan for Christian. The first play he comes out, he gets hurt. Okay, but the thing is, and LaFleur does own this, right? Is that as a coach, right? This is not a hobby. You're getting paid a lot of money. Yeah. You have to be able to say, okay, well, we lost the piece that we were trying to feature today, right? That's nobody's fault. It is what it is. So what do we do now? Because we need to win this game. That doesn't change. No one's feeling sorry for himself, like LaFleur loves to say. So what do we do? What is the next step to fix that? we weren't able to come up with an answer for that. So, and that's kind of where you need to be in practice, saying, okay, what's our backup? What's our next step? If the person that we're putting all our eggs in, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, right? You need to have different routes to success. And I just do not see the Packers, when they face with adversity, rise to the occasion. I kind of see them, just fall to it. And I just think I've seen that since LaFleur has taken over.
Yeah.
We've just been lucky that we haven't had much adversity because we had a good team. We had Rodgers going to Devontae all the time. I mean, Rodgers had a huge safety blanket in Devontae Adams. Something went wrong, Devontae Adams. The 49ers game last year, Devontae Adams. What else happened in that 49ers game other than go to Devontae Adams, right? Now Rodgers is looking around and he goes, I don't really have Devontae Adams. I have I have the only other Randall Cobb got hurt. So I have Sammy Watkins, who was absolute trash the last game. I don't know if you guys were watching Sammy Watkins, but he was not running the right routes whatsoever. And he must not know the calls. And to have a veteran receiver who I was pushing for. I was like, maybe he's going to get it together this year. He's clearly not up to speed with where he should be at right now. And to be a veteran receiver and not have the mental aspect is a huge concern to me. Honestly, I think he should be off the team. And a lot of people on Twitter have said that too. But the thing is, they have no other receivers, so they can't really get rid of him. But that was a really big issue for me. But I need to see the Packers get faced with some adversity, be able to course correct, and not, and succeed. Because right now I am not seeing that whatsoever, and that is what gives me a lot of concern about this team moving forward. Because we are not the team we were last year, where we can make mistakes and get by just because of the talent we have. We have some talent on the team, but a lot of it is young talent that doesn't have the experience that Devontae Adams had, and we need to be able to act more coherently and not just rely on one player who doesn't exist anymore. And I think that's kind of what the Packers did last year. And Rodgers has tried to find that this year, and it just hasn't came.
No.
I don't think it's going to come because I don't think it exists.
No, it is not at all. All right. Let's get into our quick question for you guys. What is your favorite Packers Cowboys rivalry? So it could be the Ice Bowl, Des catch, or jerk catch. Anyone want to go first?
You want to go?
Winning the Super Bowl in AT&T Stadium. That's my favorite Cowboys memory.
All right.
Right? I mean, it was their stadium. No, I'm just kidding. But I mean, obviously, that was my favorite memory. I don't know. I mean, I think I'm trying to think back now. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite memory, but an interesting memory was when Rodgers came and played in that Cowboys game back when he was the backup, right? And Favre got hurt. So I think that's always going to be a interesting nugget kind of with the Cowboys rivalry. The Ice Bowl was against the Cowboys, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there you go. Not that I was alive for that, but that's a cool moment. I mean, I don't really have any huge moments against the Cowboys. The Des catch game, I knew that wasn't a catch, and I was right. I actually have an uncle who's a Cowboys fan. I was watching it at their house, and they were like, "Oh no, that's a catch." I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not a catch." And I was right. So, so that's that. And then the Jared Cook one, obviously that's a very big game, and I was actually on a plane for that game, so I didn't see it. I had I told you that story, right? I DVR'd it, and I made sure I didn't look at my phone for a few hours, so I got surprised at like 9 p.m. when I watched it. That obviously a big game there. But I don't have anything that stands out as like a number one, other than, like I said, winning the Super Bowl in Cowboy Stadium. So.
I would say for me, probably the Jared Cook catch, just because it's the one I remember the most vividly. And I remember thinking, like, no way, like, we just lost. Then Aaron Rodgers rolls out down the sideline. Jared Cook toe tap in the inbounds. And then Mason Crosby, like, finishes off the drive. I remember that the most, like, vividly, so I would say probably that.
One thing before you go, Jeremy, one thing I have to add. Another thing we're missing out, and I hope I'm not stealing this out of your mouth, but do you remember the Cowboys game when Devontae Adams had the walk-off touchdown? And he actually walked out into the locker room after, I think.
Which
if
the
I remember
football
correctly.
up, yeah, he threw the football
Or
up.
maybe just threw it. Yeah, he threw it in the stand.
Right.
I don't know if you guys go on the Reddit page, but somebody had a great meme there of like it might be still the most liked post in the Packers Reddit page, but of him like taking a picture like there's still too much time left or whatever because they left too many. Remember that one? Yeah. So that was against the Cowboys. So that's a good moment.
No, mine's the same as Carson was a jerk coach because I remember watching that video. I'm like, I swear, if we blow this game, this is the end for the Packers. And like, luckily, I see the vintage Aaron Rodgers rolls out his pockets. I think it was Lane Taylor or somebody from the offensive line. I forget who. That went for the blocking on Lawrence, I think it was. And it was just awesome to see jerk coach make the catch. At first, I thought like, no way he made that in. And then I look at the replay and he makes it in. And I was just spectacular to watch. That's one of my favorite Aaron Rodgers moments ever. And then he kicks the game winning and then cross kicks field goal. Awesome watch there. And then the next day I go into school. I deal with like I'm from Pennsylvania and I deal with Eagle fans, but I deal with a bunch of Cowboy fans went to my school. So I just kept roasting them all day because they kept saying like they kept like annoying me so much all year. Like Cowboys everything like that. Then the one day I got to literally just shut up the Cowboys. That was the beauty of it. It's like quiet. We run the table. This is the best moment of the Packers of Aaron Rodgers. So yeah.
I think it's a good rivalry just because Ice Bowl won, but two, I think there's a lot of, you're saying that people call you, Carson, a bandwagon fan because you're a Packers fan in Ohio, but I don't think that. I mean, I just met you today, but I don't think that at all. But I think there's a lot of bandwagon Cowboy fans, people that are just like, oh, they're America's team, blah, blah, blah. Like they have like a good brand around them. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying everyone's there's obviously some diehard Cowboys fans there, and I respect them. I respect anybody who's a diehard fan of their team and doesn't, make fun of other people. But I think there's also a lot of casual Cowboys fans that are just Cowboys fans because, they know somebody who's a Cowboys fan or they like the branding and, the Cowboys have a powerful brand. I think they're probably the most valuable brand in the sports other than the Yankees, I think I would say. I don't know. Forbes does a list on this all year, but the Cowboys are very good at that. I don't like the Cowboys, but there are a lot of people that like the Cowboys, but I'm not sure if they're a huge football fan. They're just kind of a Cowboys fan. So I think there's a lot of bandwagon fans in the Cowboys nation, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get to our next topic, which this was probably one of the most frustrating moments I had to deal with, which was the trade deadline. What are our thoughts on this trade deadline for us Packers fans? Of seeing like you look at afterwards with I think Andy Herman who's posting or Ken Ingles, the Packers cap space guy on Twitter, kept posting about how many guys were Packers interested in, and we didn't come off any of them. Like Judy, DJ Moore, Waller, so many good Pro Bowl receivers, weapons, and we get nothing out of it.
Can I start on this one?
Yes, you can. Go.
And I know, Carson, you're not on the tanking bandwagon, so feel free to push back against what I'm about to say here. But all right, so go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So my thought on the trade deadline. So I think if there was a time to be buyers in the trade deadline, it was last year or the year before, because that year we were successful. We had a good record at this point. And to me, you want to make a trade halfway through the season because usually it's going to be a rental, right? You're not going to usually keep this player for long term to help you in the immediate. So this year, right? And you're going to pay for it in the future because, you're giving up future draft capital to make that trade. No one's giving you a player for free. Like we got Jonathan Abram for free, right? Because they dropped him. But no one's making a trade with no trade compensation. And usually if you're a buyer at the trade deadline, you're buying high, right? Because, you need that player to succeed. And the other team knows that you're basically kind of desperate for that player to help you succeed this year. So the Packers, in my mind, would have had to overpay for a short-term rental in a year that they clearly are not, in my opinion, competitive enough to win the Super Bowl. And if we're not trying to win the Super Bowl here, why would we mortgage future assets to get to the playoffs, win maybe a game, and then lose? right? Now, I understand the argument that you just have to get into the dance and then you never know what could happen. But do you really think this team is going to beat the Chiefs, going to beat the Bills in the Super Bowl if you got there? I find it hard to believe. I know we played okay against the Bills, but the Super Bowl is a different animal, and I do not think that the Bills are going to lay an egg and kind of lay down like they did in the second half against us. They kind of coasted for the second half, and that's why I think we had success there. So anyway, so if we don't realistically think we can win the Super Bowl this year, I do not think you can buy. I do not think this is the year to buy. And did we need receivers? Sure, but is the receiver one receiver that you're going to overpay for going to help you win the Super Bowl? That's the question I have for anybody who was pushing for that. And if the answer is no, then why am I overpaying and further leveraging or further mortgaging the future? To me, what we should have done, and this might not be very popular with you guys or the fan base, right, is sold, right? But then you could ask, well, who would we sell, right? Would you sell Rashawn Gary or Jair Alexander? Absolutely not. I would not do that because they're young players. So who I would have sold, right? If you try to sell Rodgers, no one wants Rodgers at this point, right? They're not gonna give you anything for Rodgers. So who I would have sold is Aaron Jones, and I hate to say that because I really love Aaron Jones, right? But Aaron Jones is by far our best player right now.
Yep.
And I think he's an asset to another team that's trying to make a playoff run, i.e. the Bills, who made a trade for the running back. And imagine Aaron Jones on the Bills. I think they're honestly probably surefire Super Bowl contenders if they're not already. And if you could have got something for him, then I think that's good, because think about it. Aaron Jones at the end of this year, right, is not going to be a free agent, but you could save, I think, $11 million on the cap if you cut him. So likely Aaron Jones is probably not going to be brought back this year if they're not able to restructure his contract. So if you don't think you're a Super Bowl contender team, you get an asset for somebody who you probably can't bring back next year anyway, and build for the future. And I think that would have been the right thing. Now, I do not know if there was a trade market for Aaron Jones. I would think that there would be, and I would hate to see it too, because I really love Aaron Jones. He's one of my favorite players on the Packers. So I'm not saying this because I hate Aaron Jones. It's the complete opposite. I'm just saying that I think he was the one person that had trade value this year and could have helped us accumulate assets for the future. But I understand that's on the tanking bandwagon. So I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I just think that would be helpful in the future. And that's where I'm looking at right now. But I'll let you guys go.
I would say that I was not surprised that we did not make a trade. Every year I get my hopes up that we're going to trade for some receiver to help out Devontae or to be that number one guy this year. Didn't happen. Not surprised. But I actually did think that we were going to do one this year. And for like my Packers account on Instagram, I actually had like this graphic, and I like made probably like 7 of them for like the like different players that we could have gotten, just so that as soon as the news went out, I was like, boom, we got DJ Moore. Boom, we got Jerry Jeudy. None of them happened, so I ended up using that same graphic with like a blank player and said Packers traded for nobody. But yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm surprised about it. Whether we needed it or not, I don't know, because who knows if Chase Claypool comes in and is better than anything we already have right now. Like, he's basically just a second Allen Lazard. Like, is that really going to help us like go from a 3-6 team to like a 6-3 team? Probably not. So I wouldn't say that we needed to trade for one. I wouldn't say I'm disappointed that we didn't trade for one, but I actually did think we were, just because, I mean, Aaron Rodgers was saying stuff about it. Matt LaFleur was saying stuff about it. Even Brian Gutekunst was saying, like, if the guy there, will take him. So I was kind of shocked that they didn't, but I'm not surprised that it didn't happen at the end of the day. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the same for me. I had my hopes up for the Packers, like making a trade, and then all of a sudden never happens. I hope for it, and nothing happens. So one thing I'd Packers sell, which was trade Clint Dix back in the day to Washington.
Not selling.
Well,
that's pawning off.
Whatever. Say, fine. I'll take that. Anyway, that's the last thing Packers doing at deadline. But no, I was very annoyed because I thought like with the receiver definitely make a difference. But for me, it depended on what kind of deal we were getting. I did not want to give him a first round pick because if it was like we got DJ Moore, that could hurt us right at the end. Is like, oh, Packers lose out, and where do we stop? Second round pick, and we got DJ Moore. Like, yeah, that was the annoying part of like it wasn't. I don't think it's worth it to get rid of a second round because especially where we were given a record. I thought if we went down, it was going to look very bad on us. So it would have depended on like maybe a third round, fifth round, like kind of do something there, like between like a mid round I would have traded for. That was the only thing I would have done. The guys I was considering. I really like Judy. That was something I thought maybe we could have a shot on, but DJ Moore, that was a dream boat, which I knew was going to cost us some like. It's not worth it at this point where we are. And then looking at the other guys, Chase Claypool, I would not have second round pick because I'm like he's not going to do much as especially another Allen Lazard. He was not going to do much for us, honestly. So I mean, it was annoying to watch. Yes, I hate to say like what Mike was saying about maybe tanking where Packers get rid of Aaron Jones, which I don't want to, and I don't think we should give up yet. Where it comes to the offseason wise, they probably will get rid of Aaron Jones. Maybe I hope they don't love him. But yeah, it was just annoying to watch. Hoping they do it, and now at this point. If you're going to go for a receiver, you go for Odell Beckham. He's not going to be able to December, but at that point, is it worth it where we are? So I'm like, no, it's not worth it to get Odell at this point. So if you want receiver Packers, you should have got one if you're going to go all in. And the offseason to win a Super Bowl, that's the annoying part.
I mean, one thing that like I was kind of what I think they should have done is if before the season, like you just said, they were all in to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Then why wait until November to trade for a receiver? Because at November, that was like 8 weeks in at that point, and we were like 3-5.
Yep.
So why wait until then if we're going all in to win a Super Bowl? If we would have gotten DJ Moore for a first at the beginning of the year and played those first 8 games with him, then maybe we win that one possession game against the Giants and the Jets, and we would probably beat the Lions last week, and like maybe we have a better chance against the Bills, and maybe the offense doesn't collapse how it has right now. Yeah. So if you trade for that receiver at the beginning of the year, maybe we're sitting at like 5-3 or whatever, 6-3 instead of 3-6, and so. Yeah, that's what I think we should have done. And since we didn't, I'm not really annoyed that we didn't trade for one at the deadline because at that point we had a losing record. What's the point? Like we would have to win. We only had 3 games to lose at that point to even make the playoffs. So by the time November came around, I just didn't really see the point of it.
Yeah. I think everything is risk reward here.
Yeah.
You know. Someone like DJ Moore, I know they wanted to give him a first-round pick, and this kind of goes back against what I was saying. But I just looked at his contract. You know, he's signed until 2025. So if you got him, you know, like you could have a few bad years and him still be on the team, and then, you know, you could re-sign him, and you know he's a big, asset to the team. So I think that something like that would make sense. Maybe even a first-rounder, because if you could, you're going to get a DJ Moore in a first-round pick, right? I mean, look at the first-rounders we've gotten. Hasn't been that great. You know, so to get a proven commodity like DJ Moore for 5 years, that could make sense. Claypool, I don't think is going to make the big splash that you need.
No.
They did go for him, and they almost got him. I mean, the only reason we didn't get Claypool was because, you know, the Steelers decided the Bears pick was going to be lower than ours. In hindsight, that probably was a bad mistake because, you know, Fields has looked pretty good recently, and who knows, the Bears could end up having a better record than the Packers. But that's the only reason we didn't get Claypool. So we could be having a completely different conversation right now if the Steelers made a different choice, and they didn't. So, like, honestly, I think Gutekunst did want to trade for a receiver this year, and I think he tried to, and it just didn't play out. So if you wanted a receiver, I think you should be happy with Gutekunst because he did try. I'm not super happy with Gutekunst because I don't think he's being – I think he needs to pick a side. Again, he didn't try to make a trade last year when we should have had a trade. And then now he's trying to make a trade to like spark this defense, this team, right? It's like you have like a person on like in the hospital, right? Like his heart's flatlining and you're trying to like, jolt it and trying to get it going, right? But like obviously that's a person you want to keep him alive. So it's kind of a bad analogy, but like here we have like a flatlining team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where and then you need like 100 jolts of energy to get this team going, but like you're not going to get that through the trade deadline. You can only get like 20, and you have to overpay for that 20. So you jolt it with 20 volts and it's just going to go back to flatline because it was a good high. You overpaid for that high, and now it's back to where it was. So it's a temporary fix that was not going to fix the issue. And honestly, I don't think Gutekunst should have tried to buy it all this year. I think he should have realized the time to fix his offense was in the offseason. If we were not able to do that, then doing it now is not going to help because now you have to pay for this. This is not, what do you call it? Value. You can't make a value trade. You're going to have to overpay to make the trade, and then you're not going to succeed anyway. So you just might as well kick it to the future and build assets to get to the team where we need to be. Look at the Jets, right? Like right now, I'm comparing us to the Jets because the Jets sucked for years, right? But look what happened. They got Sauce Gardner, they got Garrett Wilson, they got Zach Wilson, right? And now you're seeing some life in that team, right? They sucked for years. They got a pretty decent coach, it seems. And you're seeing some life. Are they a Super Bowl caliber team at this moment? I doubt it. But they're on the right track, and they have young players that, as they grow together, can sustain the success and repeat it moving forward. Packers right now have an old aging quarterback that you're paying $50 million for, right?
Yep.
May or may not be here next year. And you don't really have any young assets that in key positions like Zach Wilson and quarterback, right? Like you have Love, but you haven't invested in Love and given him the opportunity to succeed. So we're kind of stuck in the middle.
Yep.
And we need to pick a side. We need to pick a side of we're all in on the future or we're all in right now, but I don't know how you could even be on that side because we're not succeeding at that. Right now, we're supposed to be all in on succeeding now, but we suck.
Yep.
Right? So like you can't be all in on succeeding now, but then not win a game 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
At some point, you failed as a team, and I think that's kind of where we're at right now. And I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer because again, that's not my intent here. But at some point, we have to be realistic with where we're at. And if you're all in, right, which is what we're at, we're all in. We have Aaron Rodgers, right? He's not young. He's not getting any younger. That's just life, right? So we need to win now. That's why we gave him $50 million. And we had a 5-game losing streak, right? We haven't been on a 5-game losing streak in any of these past years, and we didn't win a Super Bowl. So what makes us think that now we're going to turn this around? It's not like we lost to crazy good teams. Like we lost to the Giants, who I think are overrated. We lost to the Jets, who even though I just sung their praises, we should have probably beat.
Yep.
The Bills, I think, was a fair loss. And, the Lions, we absolutely should have beat. There's no way around us shouldn't have beaten. And Commanders, we probably should have beat too. So these were all winnable games that we lost. And now we're thinking like, well, how can we salvage this season and make this trade to really, propel us to a Super Bowl? And I just think that's unrealistic. And I think the realistic situation here is that we're not a Super Bowl team this year. We made a mistake keeping Rodgers, and we have to try to pick up the pieces where they are now and somehow create a, create something for the future. That's really all I'm looking at right now is for the future, because I do not want to become a team like the Jets that suck for 5, 6, 7 years, and we have no path forward. And I do fear that that's where we're going. And I'm not trying to be, and I would love to hear somebody prove me wrong, because I'm not trying to be negative. I just haven't heard anything to prove me wrong yet.
Well, here's what I have to say about the Packers being trash, which we are trash this year.
Yep.
And here's why. Every single one of those games that you listed, besides the Bills, but we only lost that game by 10. Every other game you said was a 1-possession game. And I'm not saying, oh, it was a 1-possession game against the Lions, like, oh, we're so good. I'm not saying that. I'm saying It was a 1-possession game, and Aaron Rodgers threw 3 interceptions. And our defense was on the field for forever. And same thing against the Commanders. We had a defensive touchdown. Couldn't score on offense because we had tons of penalties. And I think Aaron Rodgers threw a pick that game too. We should have had 2 defensive touchdowns if Stokes wouldn't have had hands to the face. And against the Giants, we smacked them in the first half. We were beating them like 20-3 or something like that. And second half, we just fell apart. And so we're losing these games by 1 or 2 possessions simply because we're making mental mistakes. Like Quay Walker in the Bills game had no business pushing that one guy and got ejected. That's his mistake, nobody else. Same with Stokes or Jair getting unsportsmanlike conducts or hands to the face. Nobody's fault but theirs. And that gives them 15, 30, maybe even 50 more yards because of stupid penalties that we have. And Rodgers, maybe he'll make a good play, but there's a hold. And that brings us all the way back. And so there's these little things in our games that we've never really had before. The Packers have never really been a penalized team. And, I mean, the past couple of years, the Packers have been perfect pretty much. Aaron Rodgers doesn't turn the ball over. We win the turnover battle pretty much every time, and we weren't ever penalized. This year, that's not the case. And even with Aaron Rodgers playing like garbage, throwing picks nearly every game, even with our defense getting unsportsmanlike conducts, hands to the face, pass interference, all these different things, even with our special team struggles, we're still playing one-possession games week in and week out, and we still cover the spread against the Super Bowl favorites. And so there's just no way that you can like sit here and tell me that all hope is lost and that going into these next 2 or 3 years that we have Rodgers signed on the team, that there's just no way that the Packers could be good because we suck this year. We're 3-6. We lost to the Lions. We lost to the Jets. We lost to the Redskins, or the Commanders, all these different things. Because, yeah, we did lose to them, and we lost to them pretty bad, and we probably shouldn't have lost to them. But it's not like watching these games that is just completely like, oh, this team sucks. Like, it's not like the Jets where it's like those last few years that they were terrible. We're not like that. We're bad. We're not like that.
No.
I agree. And I'm not saying that the Packers right now are the worst team in the league because I don't think that's it. I think, again, we're probably in the middle right now. I'm going to pull up one thing. So the Packers salary cap, right? Because
you have to pay that. It's gonna be very annoying because we have to pay a low cap space and counting guys Jair, Bakhtiari, Jenkins, and Gary's gonna get an extension. There's gonna be so many contract extensions pay and cap space can go annoyingly high, and you eventually pay that.
Right. And I so where I'm coming from again, it's not really the performance on the field this year. It's kind of the results we're getting. Now I agree with you that look, these were not blowout games. The Packers had business to win all these games if things would have went the different way, right? So is all hope to be lost this season based off the talent on the team? No, not necessarily, and I agree with you there. But we've kind of dug ourselves into a hole that's going to be almost impossible to get out of, because think about the losses we've had, right? The first loss against the Giants, right? I don't think the Giants are a great team, but we now are the first loss against the Vikings, right? The Vikings now are 7-1. And what's our record? 3-6?
Yes.
No, wait.
Isn't it?
We're 3-5, right?
3-5. Yes. 3-5. Sorry.
No, we're 3. We're 3.
No, 3-6. 3-6, right? So the Vikings are 8-1, or are they 7-2?
Vikings are 7-1.
Yeah, because they had the
because they had their bye. Sorry, you're right. All right, so they're 7-1. So. And we are half game behind them as we lost to them, right? So we still could technically get the tiebreaker against the Vikings if we beat them, but the chances that we win the division now are slim to none, right? Do we all agree with that, right? That we're not going to win the division. Yeah. Right. So now we have to go to the wild card, right? Somebody's going to win the NFC East, and it's going to probably be the Eagles. So the Giants are probably going to be a wild card team, and the Cowboys are probably going to be a wild card team, right? The Giants, we lost the tiebreaker to already. We lost to them, right? So in order to pass the Giants, it's pretty unlikely this year, right? So you're probably not going to pass the Giants. So that's one wild card spot taken. The Cowboys we play this week. So if we win this game, in theory, you could pass the Cowboys. If you lose to this game, to the Cowboys, I think that's another wild card spot that's gone. So now you have one extra wild card spot, right? and we lost to the Commanders. Now, do you think the Commanders could be a playoff team? Probably not. But, I mean, we lost them. We don't have the tiebreaker there. So there's 3 teams there that could be potential wildcard contenders that we don't have the tiebreaker against. And we're going to have to completely jump them to get into the playoffs. And I just don't see that as being a likely scenario. So to me, could the Packers turn it around this year? Sure. But we've already dug ourselves into a hole that everything is going to have to go right for us just to sneak into the playoffs, right? And even if we just sneak into the playoffs, I still don't think we have the talent to win 3 games in a row, get to the Super Bowl, and then beat one of the good AFC teams, who's probably the Super Bowl champions coming out of the AFC this year. That's where I put my money, at least. So to me, I would not put a dime on the Packers winning the Super Bowl this year. So if you're telling me that the chances the Packers win the Super Bowl is next to nothing this year at week 9, right?
Yep.
And you just gave Rodgers, right, a contract extension last year. Not only is it a contract, we also have a opportunity cost where we could have traded him to the Denver Broncos, right? And I know this is hindsight's 2020, right? But people were saying this at the time, and we could have got all that capital for Rodgers at the time. But instead of doing that, we paid him all this money to be 3-6 in week 9. So that is where I'm really, defeated at this point. Is we kind of backed ourselves into a wall in the next few years, because Rodgers' cap number right now is $28.5 million, right? Next year it's going to go to 31. But then it's going to balloon after that to 40 in 24, 59 in 25, and 53 million in 26. And there's going to be a lot of dead cap money at some point when he decides to retire, because I not think he plays in 2026, especially if we're looking like this. So we made this decision to extend Rodgers to win now, and we're 3-6 with almost no path forward to win this year, at least. And now next year is obviously a different year, but not only does Rodgers' contract balloon up next year, Bakhtiari's contract is at $29 million when this year it's only at $13 million. And I love Bakhtiari, but he can't even stay on the field is the reality right now. And then after that, Kenny Clark's cap number is 24. So we have some high cap numbers. We're going to have to get rid of Aaron Jones because you could save $10 million there. So there goes our top running back. And now we basically have to restart on a team, in my opinion, other than on defense. But the offense basically you have to restart on, except the one major piece that you want set up for the future. Your quarterback is not set up for the future. It's probably a year rental with Rodgers next year, because if at most I don't see Rodgers playing past next year. And if the Packers do really bad this year, I don't even see him playing past this year. But so my frustration is not necessarily in how we're playing right now. It's the fact that we mortgages our future for this year and we're 3-6, right? So that's the problem. And I think the Packers are kind of in this middle ground where, look at the Bills. If I'm a Bills fan, I'm feeling really good right now. Why? Because I have Josh Allen, right? And I have a good team around him. Packers right now don't have a young quarterback that can run around, scramble, make plays, look exciting. We have Rodgers, who in the past was like that, but right now he's not, and we're paying him top dollar for it. That's the other problem, is we're paying him top dollar to be less productive than Geno Smith. And I think that's the big issue here. And again, it's not necessarily – I agree with what you're saying, Carson. It's that the team can turn around this year and they can play much better. They have the ability to do it. But are we going to be able to stack enough success where we win the Super Bowl this year, which is what we set ourselves up to do by making all these decisions in the offseason? I just don't think that's possible. And I think that's where Gutekunst kind of failed us. And I think there needs to be some accountability to be seen. But, hey, look, I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Packers win out, make the playoffs, win the Super Bowl. I will lucky to eat my words and apologize. But I don't know if anyone here would – you guys aren't a betting age yet, but I don't think anyone here would make a smart bet by putting the money on the Packers and win the Super Bowl. I don't know.
All right, well, here's what I'll say about this year, because I'm not like some cap genius. I don't know like what the next years are going to look like. Right. I'm sure maybe we could figure something out. But this year, we are 3-6. And like we said, we're not catching the Giants. Probably not catching the Cowboys. Eagles are going to win the conference. Vikings are going to win our division. Buccaneers are going to win their division. And then Who else we got that's in there? Seahawks. We're not going to catch them either. So that leaves the few teams that are above us. I think we're like, what are we right now? Like 10th, 11th in the NFC right now?
I know we have the 10th pick in the draft right now, which is not good.
Well, I actually just made a YouTube video about this yesterday, about how the Packers can make the playoffs. And so the Commanders, not going to make the playoffs. They're above us. Falcons, not going to make the playoffs. They're above us. So that leaves the 49ers at the 7th seed right now. Top 7 teams make the playoffs. So 49ers are sitting at 4-4. So yeah, we're not going to catch the teams above them. But you only need to be 7. And right now, we're only 1 game behind the 49ers. And if we look at the 49ers schedule, yes, they have Christian McCaffrey. Yes, they have Deebo Samuel. But this Sunday, they play the Chargers. They could win that game, but it's going to be a tough game. Then the week after that, they play the Cardinals. Yes, they will probably win that game. It's in Arizona. Cardinals have been playing okay with D-Hop, almost beat the Vikings. So who knows? They could come out with that one. All right, let's say they lose to the Chargers this week. They drop to 4-5. They beat the Cardinals next week, 5-5. Then they play the Saints, beat the Saints, 6-5. Then they play the Dolphins. Dolphins have been going crazy. Tua is undefeated as a starter, and he finishes the game. I think they lose to the Dolphins there. So, 6-6. They play the Buccaneers. As bad as the Buccaneers have looked, you don't think they could turn things around by 5 weeks ahead? I think they could. So, maybe the 49ers win that game. Buccaneers are going to look a lot better than they do right now, and I think it's going to be a close game. So, but let's say they win that game. Then, they got the Seahawks. Seahawks have been doing insane. It's a division matchup. It's going to be a very close game. And it's in Seattle. So, I have Seattle winning that game. Then they play Washington. Easy win against Washington. Then they play the Raiders in Las Vegas. Almost said Oakland, but in Las Vegas. That's a tough game. The Raiders are good, even though they don't look like it. Derek Carr is not as bad as a quarterback as people are making him out to be. And the Raiders have a good roster on paper. So regardless of who they play, it's going to be close. I'm pretty sure they've had 3 losses this year where they've had a 17 or higher lead, and they just blew it. And so the Raiders aren't some garbage team that the 49ers are going to stomp through. And then the final game of the year, they play the Cardinals once again. That's a tough schedule. The worst team that they have is the Commanders. And then they have the second worst, which is the Saints. And then the third worst after that is the Cardinals, which is a divisional matchup. Divisional matchups are always tough. Why do you think we lose to the Lions? Why do you think sometimes the Bears games are close? Why do you think we lose to the Vikings? Because divisional matchup, you play them twice a year. It's going to be close. So Cardinals, even if they suck, there's a chance. So 49ers, they're the 7th seed right now. Nobody below them is going to make it. Not the Falcons, not the Saints, not the Commanders. They're garbage. So that leaves us. Us and the 49ers. I think it is a one-on-one battle for the 7th seed. We're only 1 game behind them. If we win both of these games at home against the Cowboys and the Titans, that puts us at 5-6. We would have to win 4 out of the last 6 games to finish 9-8. Last year, there were 2 teams that finished 9-8 and still made the playoffs. So that's all we got to do. Win 4 of the last 6. In those 4 games that we have to win, we have the Lions at home, the Bears, and the Vikings at home. They took up 3 of those 4 games that I think we will win. So that gives us 3 out of the last 4 that we need. Then we just got to be either the Rams, Dolphins, or Eagles. Eagles will lose. Dolphins, maybe we could come out with that. Rams in Green Bay, I think that's the game that we'll win. I have us finishing 9-8 at the 7th seed. And I think that's our path. We need the 49ers to start losing games. Possible. They have a tough schedule. And the Packers, all they got to do is win the games that they're supposed to win, and we're fine.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think if there's a way the Packers can have success this year, it's got to be to the 7th seed. I just don't see any path to any other seed. I don't see a 7th seed rising to the Super Bowl. I mean, granted, I understand that you just get into the playoffs and you see what happens after that. But I mean, I'm hoping for it. I really do. It sounds great. I mean, the one reservation I have is, again, we don't have the tiebreaker against the Commanders, so the Commanders really need to fall off. Granted, they haven't played the Eagles yet, right? Or I don't know if they did, but
They did.
They're playing them. What?
They did.
They did, right?
So they played them. They lost the first one to the Eagles. Beat the Commanders, and now they're playing on Monday night. So that's like the decider.
Right. So if the Eagles, I think what the Packers need is the Eagles to we need the wins to be in the teams that are going to win the division. Yeah. So the Eagles, the Vikings, the Seahawks, and maybe the Buccaneers. Right. I'm not sure if they're going to win a division or not. And then the Cowboys and the Giants. You need them to do really well because we don't really care about those seeds anymore. And like you said, you need the 49ers, the Falcons, and the Rams, and all those teams on the bubble just to completely suck so that somehow we escape and kind of just go into that seed and just hope that somehow we pull it together in the playoffs.
Well,
it's possible. Obviously, it's not impossible. I don't see it happening, but maybe.
The thing
about right. Teams can get in at 9-8. You're right. You're right about that.
The thing about the playoffs is, say we get in at the 7, then I think how it's gonna go is Eagles at 1, Vikings at 2, and then the rest is at the bottom. So for the 7th seed, the Eagles have a bye week, so we would play the Vikings. The Vikings is a very winnable game in the first round, especially second to last game of the season. If we beat them then to make the playoffs, I think there's definitely a chance that we could go in to Minnesota and beat the Vikings in the first round. Then, if we beat the Vikings in the first round, we'd play the Eagles. We get to see what that's like in 2 weeks. If we struggle with the Eagles and we get blown out, then yeah, second round exits, just like the past couple of years, we lose in the playoffs. So what? We still ran the table, made the playoffs, won the first round. No one expected us to be there at that point. And yeah, maybe we lose to the Eagles. But you're not saying that you wouldn't give us a chance against the Eagles. Like their best
you gotta give them a chance against anybody in the playoffs. You never know what happens in the playoffs.
Is their offense. Our best weapon is our defense. We match up very well with the Eagles. All I'm saying, there's a chance. And we got
a chance until you're eliminated. I agree. No, I agree. I love your optimism, and I wish I had it, but I hope you're right. I really do, because again, I'm a Packers fan. I'm not a fan of another team, and I want to see this team succeed. Unfortunately, I'm also a realist, I think, in some ways, and I hope I'm not being a downer. If being a downer, then I'm in the wrong. And I think having optimism is a great way to look at this, because we're a fan at the end of the day. We're not a decision maker. And all we can do is have optimism. And I think that's a great way to look at this, because, you'll be much happier with your approach. But I also like to look at what the mechanics of kind of the way this is doing, which is probably my fault, because again, I'm not, I had no say in it. So even if I understand the mechanics, it doesn't really matter. But I don't think it's going to be an easy road. Is it a possible road? Sure. But it's going to have to start this week. And if we beat the Cowboys, then we go into against Tennessee, right? That's also a home game. It's not in Tennessee. So we got 2 home games back to back. If we can win that and have like a mini bye, right? Because it's a Thursday night game, maybe we could get a little bit healthier and come out and, take this second half of the season in storm and really have a lot of success. The other thing we're missing here, though, too, is kind of just like where the team's at. Like, I think that the team doesn't seem to be really cohesive. There's a lot of reports coming out of the locker room that people aren't happy, that, Rodgers isn't taking accountability, and that, they think they're throwing blame around, which is obviously is not a good thing of a winning team. Look at the Vikings. They're jumping around, having a good time. Seems like the Packers aren't really have that camaraderie as we had in prior years. So that is another thing that gives me pause. But hey, we'll see. I mean, at this point, it's November 10th. The Super Bowl's not until February, whatever. So you cannot count us out until it says an E next to our name, and that's not this case. So I agree. 7th seed is definitely possible, but we need to play better starting now. What you're doing right now is not acceptable to get there. We need to start playing better, and people need to start coaching better on the coaching staff, and it has to start this week. People said it had to start last week, and it didn't start last week. So we can't just keep pushing it off, right? At some point, you got to say, if you can't do it this week, that's it. Like there's no way we're going to dig ourselves out of this hole. And I think this is at the absolute last week, in my opinion, that if we don't come away with a win here, it's going to be bad.
Yeah, if we lose to the Cowboys this weekend, I'll throw in the towel. But
I'm not a negative. If you talk to my dad, he's negative, very negative. I try not to be negative. But what really scares me is not even just this season. It's moving forward. If we put all these resources in this is one season and have to just talk about how can we back into the playoffs, why do we mortgage our future to back into the playoffs, right? I could have had Geno Smith as my quarterback and still backed in the playoffs. I know it's easier to say now, but we should have had an MVP caliber quarterback, and he's not playing like that this year. And we also don't have the weapons around him and, the offensive line to protect him. And there's just a lot of issues that kind of boiling up. And the worst part is we're losing, right? And again, I hope it changes. I really do. It seems every week we watch the same thing. Yep. They're not consistent. Their offense looks terrible. The defense is okay for a few drives and then falls off for a few drives, gives up a long drive, gives up a touchdown. Then our offense can't score, so we can't catch up. So, it just seems like it's a consistent pattern of, not good enough. And it's hard for me to sign off it's going to change. It's going to be good enough next week because there is a track pattern in this. So, I don't know, Jeremy, we haven't let you talk in a while.
So I'd like to comment on both your sides. Mike's side. I'll start first. For the future wise, we invested in Aaron Rodgers. He's not performing. We need the results. But again, you either make or break it. At some point, you're gonna have to either face the consequences of losing and face it, and take it like a man. Because that's what this team's annoying. You're not taking the blame. Mapplethorpe always says, we'll give him the next week. Rodgers, he's not taking the blame. Yes, he said he played garbage in I think the Lions of the Bills game. But again, if I've been mentioning on this tonight of the stream, when are we going to overcome the adversity? When are we going to beat this team? I'm not believing in we win a game. That's my expectation at this point. It's annoying now. Can we make the playoffs? Yes. And that's something that I think we can actually make. It's just as long as we turn it around. Can we get it going? Wheels turn and we just go. That's been the annoying part. For your side, Carson, I really like the breakdown of what you said about the Packers schedule. My issue with the Packers schedule is you have the Titans, which you got Derrick Henry, that's a big issue for me on the run defense. You gotta win. You gotta win. You gotta win. And the Eagles, we're gonna lose that. Bears, you gotta contain Justin Fields. You got the Rams, which the Rams great, but you still gotta take care of Cooper and watch out for that. And the Dolphins, they're getting it going. That's the annoying part. Of how are you gonna stop mobile running? He's gonna run, but then you gotta watch out for Jalen Waddle. That's tough for us to cover. No matter who you put Jair Alexander on, who is going to cover the other side? Is Eric Stokes or Eric Stokes, excuse me. Russell Douglas. He's going to cover one of the other guys. That's the annoying part. How are we going to overcome that part? And with the Packers Vikings, you don't even know what the Vikings are going to do at this point. So far, they've had them. We've usually won at home against the division rival. We'll have to see. And then you go to Lions. So it's annoying to see how frustrating to watch this team has been. But no, it's been annoying to watch. But yeah, it's been very annoying to watch. But anything can happen. I'm a Phillies baseball fan. I didn't expect my baseball team to make the postseason. I didn't expect that at all. When Joe Girardi for the manager, and somehow we make it all the way to the playoffs, and we get to the World Series. I was happy to the postseason. But Yeah, that's what the annoyance is. The annoyance is when his team can overcome adversity and win. Yes, there's so many scenarios. There's scenarios that can play out for us of winning. Falcons are going to lose right now because the Panthers 22-29 with 4 minutes left. So that's a key win for us. But again, it's going to be annoying. It's just going to be annoying to watch this team again. Absolutely annoying to watch. And at this point, what do we do? Because Brian Gutekunst, he's gone trying to be Ted Thompson role, and we've seen Brian be aggressive at the start when he came in, and now he's just playing soft, not doing anything. Like, what are we doing here? Honestly, that's my question. Like, I don't believe in this team until I actually see some results and win this team. Yes, do I want to make the playoffs? It's going to hurt us for the future at this point. Probably will. But again, we got to choose a side. Either you're floating down the river, trying to get past it, or you're going back. What are we doing? Honestly, this is my question. Because that's with Gutekunst, Murphy's last year, most likely because he's CEO and going to have to replace Rodgers. I definitely see him playing next year. I definitely see him, but again, it's annoying to watch this team. And do I want them to make playoffs? Yes, I do. And anything can happen. I don't believe it until I see them win a game, and actually prove to me that they can do it. It's the annoyance. So yeah, I went on a little bit of rant. Falcons just scored a touchdown, so it's still ball game there. But I think Falcons will lose. But again, what this team is going to win. We got this. That's like the annoying part. I've just been annoyed with. So yeah.
You've really annoyed one of our viewers here. I don't know if you know who this is.
No.
Kelly the singer. You ever seen this?
No.
So apparently you're echoing pretty bad. I did go on the YouTube page. I think it's true, but
I think it's
we apologize, Kelly. I'm sorry. We see your messages here, but hopefully, Jerry, maybe just try to reset your
the StreamYard. It should work next time.
We usually use StreamYard, and feel free to join us next week if you like. If not, we understand. But yeah, apologies on the. I can hear you fine, which is weird. I can hear you fine, but I did go on YouTube. I'm not sure why it's echoing there, but it didn't seem like it was us. It just seemed like it was just you.
Because a bunch of the viewers were saying that.
But we appreciate your input, Kelly. I get it. I think it's just Jeremy that the echo's on, not on me.
Might be.
But we appreciate it, and feel free to join back. Hopefully next time we'll have it fixed for you.
Yeah.
And we do apologize. But so to what you said, I think we need to pick a side. I think that's what it is. And I think we're in the middle, and that's the worst case you can be, is when you're in the middle and there's no way out. And I that's just really is a sinking thing in my gut, is that we're in the middle here and we have all this money and all this resources in this 1 year. And we're in a position where could we be a 7th seed? Sure, we could. But, so can the Falcons, who had Marcus Mariota as their quarterback. So can the Commanders, who, their team's a mess and they have to sell because their owner sucks. And, they have, what's his name? The quarterback, Carson Wentz is hurt, and then Heineke is playing right now. The Rams, they won the Super Bowl last year. Could they turn it around? Sure, right? So they suck right now, but they can come up. Like, the Saints have looked okay. I mean, not really. I probably would put the Packers ahead of them, but, they're the same record as us. And the Cardinals, they still have Kyler Murray and Hopkins. So the Bears, Fields looks pretty good. We just lost to the Lions, so we can't even find solace in that because we just lost to them. And the Panthers are winning right now, right? I haven't watched the game, but
it's 22-15 Panthers with
22-15, right? So, the Falcons could lose that game, and we want the Panthers to win, but I don't know. I think we're in the middle here where we put a lot of resources into this one season, and what do you call it? We're just not succeeding. But again, I know we're just going in circles now. We just have to take a page out of Carson's book, calm down, have what do you call it?
Relax.
Be positive for the future, because that's all we're gonna, that's all that's gonna help our mental state of mind here.
Yeah. Well, about the future, if we're looking ahead, the Packers have always been good at developing talent.
Yes.
Whoever they draft, sometimes they're bad, but a lot of the time,
third rounders usually pretty bad.
Or
third rounders suck.
We even developed Zadarius Smith after he came from the Ravens to be a Pro Bowl player. The Packers have always been good at developing talent. And so if you're worried about Aaron Jones might have to leave after this year, Alan Lazard might have to leave after this year, Bakhtiari might have to leave after this year, Aaron Rodgers might be done after this year. So there's a lot of uncertainties going into this upcoming season. But we still have our draft picks because we didn't make a trade. We still have Romeo Doubs. We still have Christian Watson. And we still have Jordan Love. Who knows? He could be the next Aaron Rodgers. I don't think so. I personally think he's terrible. But he could be good. And so there's a lot of different things that you could say. Yeah, we're super far under the cap. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have a plan for the future. That could be true. But there's also a reality where we go into this draft. We draft a few good guys. We develop them maybe 2 or 3 years. And then we're maybe not in Super Bowl contention, but maybe we're back in the playoffs at that point. Say we don't win and we don't make the playoffs this year. If we don't make the playoffs this year, if I know anything about Aaron Rodgers, he's coming back if we don't make the playoffs. I think we'll have Rodgers next year. And so, if Romeo Doubs continues to develop, Christian Watson continues to develop, say we get rid of Aaron Jones, does that really matter? Yes, because he's probably our best player. But long term, we got A.J. Dillon, who's like he could turn into another star. And we got Kylan Hill, who's also shown some explosiveness at times. And so looking into the future, it's hard. It's too hard to say that we're going to be the next terrible team for a long time because we don't work for the Packers. We don't know what they're going to do. We don't know how they're going to develop their players. We don't know which picks they're going to take. We don't know which players they're going to cut or trade. And so, we could sit here all day saying, we're going to be good, we're going to be bad, we're going to be like mediocre because at the end of the day, we don't know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We don't know. And that's the beauty of sports is we'll figure it out. And I agree. All our opinions are just hot takes at the end of the day. And that's what a lot of podcasters are doing. All we can do is take the information we have available to us and make decisions. Whether or not it comes through, we have no idea. And all we could do is really hope for the best because at the end of the day, we're fans and we want to see the Packers succeed. And if the Packers succeed, we all win. So I think that's good. But just to wrap it up, I have one question. And did we hit all the topics, Jeremy, for the most part,
yes.
right?
Yes,
We've been going for a while. So I have one question for you guys, and if anyone else wants to add anything, feel free. But I want to get you guys' opinion on this, and then what we could do after that is just tell everybody where to find you. I want to make sure, Carson, you get your page out because we really appreciate you coming on. So I want to definitely give you that opportunity. But my question is, okay, so let's say again, and I'm not rooting for this, but let's say the Packers, drop this game. Maybe let's say beat the Titans, but then drop another game, and it gets to a point where there's really no path forward for this season. Would you sit Rodgers and see what we have in Love for a little bit? Because, if there's no path forward to the playoffs, again, Rodgers is not trying to improve. Do you think that we need to, really see what we have in Love and give him some starting time so, he can develop?
You want to answer first?
You can answer, Carson.
All right. In my mind, I think that, it's a great idea. If we're eliminated, let Jordan Love play last 6 or whatever games it might be. Sure, he could play. Maybe we'll see if he's good or not. But another side of me is saying, if we play Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers might get a little mad. And if Aaron Rodgers gets mad, then maybe he's gone next year. And do we really want to take that risk? Because what if Aaron Rodgers gets mad for us starting Jordan Love and Jordan Love is trash? Then we got a mad Aaron Rodgers who doesn't want to play anymore because we benched him and a bad young quarterback who we thought was going to be the next guy. Then what do we do? Rodgers is old. He takes up all of our money pretty much. So he's mad at us. And then we have a young quarterback who sucks and we can't move forward with him. And so, I think it would be a great idea to start him, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers thinks it's a good idea. And so, yeah, we'll just have to see. But we're not going to get eliminated, so it doesn't matter.
Well, getting 7C, we got to run on the table. I agree.
Let me think. For me, I would say that the only way that Jordan Love gets a start is if Roger gets hurt at this point. I don't think that it's worth it of putting if you put Jordan Love in during like when we're eliminated, let's say, if you put him in, as Carson mentioned, it's gonna annoy Rodgers and he's gonna get mad at it. But you don't want to tip what's the thing? Top the bear. What is it? The classic saying, like poke the bear. Is it
poke the bear?
Thank you. Yeah. Poke the bear. You don't want to poke the bear because he's the Bears owner. You don't want to poke him because it's gonna make us more mad, and he's gonna leave, and then we're stuck with Jordan Love. So the only way, if they're theoretically gonna do it, is if Roger says he's hurt, let's say, with his thumb injury the entire time when they're eliminated. Then
he needs to be involved there, though. He needs to be on board.
But he would get, so that's when they're eliminated. So then they look at it as like, oh, geez, Rodgers is hurt. Let's say he's out for the year when he's really not. But they're just like, at this point, it's a tanking season. So you save up the draft, get the high pick, but you get some Jordan Love action. So the only way I see it actually working out is if Rodgers gets hurt, because as Matt LaFleur or Brian Gutekunst, I think, mentioned in the press conference, like they're staying with Rodgers the entire year. The only way is if Rodgers gets hurt. That's the only way I see it.
I'll add to this. First off, we had a lot of commentary in the chat by All Sports fan Adam. Jeremy, do you know who that is, or is it?
No, I do not know.
A new viewer.
Might be a new viewer.
Well, thank you for joining, Adam. Apologies again for the echo on our part, but we hope you join again, and thank you for the input in the chat. Really appreciate it. My opinion on this, I was reading some of your chats. I think, and I'm hearing a lot of what you guys are saying, and I understand what you're saying because, I don't think Rodgers wants to be benched. I think he's a competitor, and I don't think, that's something he wants. What I fear here is that we're not becoming a team anymore. We're becoming the Green Bay Aaron Rodgers. And the problem is Aaron Rodgers not all in on the Packers anymore because he's getting to that age where, he's not going to be here forever, and he's got a lot of money. And, I think he's a little bit more concerned about his personal life than it is, the team in the long run, right? Because if the Packers have success or they don't have success, he's still in kind of the same spot. Now, if we win the Super Bowl and increase his legacy, obviously has value there. But in the situation where we are completely eliminated and don't have a path forward to the playoffs, I think we need to start thinking team first. And I think the Packers have a huge decision to make at the end of this year when it comes to Jordan Love, because right now there's no shot you could give him a contract and pay what it would take to keep him without seeing anything and having Rodgers here for next year and the year after with the contract he has. So really the only value we're going to get from Love is by trading him. And who's going to trade for a player you've never seen before either? So if you go and put him out there and he lights it up, there's some value there. Or maybe you could tell Rodgers, hey, we'll eat your dead cap and we need to keep Jordan Love and that's it, and let him move forward past this year. But we have to start being realistic with decisions that need to be made with Jordan Love. I did not think that they should have picked Jordan Love. I think that they should have picked a receiver back then, and I think that was a huge mistake. But we can't change what happened in the past. We have to look forward. So I think if we are eliminated, we have to kind of explore what happens with Jordan Love. And sure, if we want to make up some fake injury or say that, even though Rodgers has been playing on his thumb, just happened to be that now we're eliminated, he can't play anymore. So he stays face and doesn't look like he's just sitting down to let a younger player go. Like, fine, whatever it be. But I think that at the end of the day, we need to start looking forward to what's good for the Packers long term and not what's good for Aaron Rodgers long term, because Aaron Rodgers is not going to be here forever. This is not a marriage where, he's going to be here till I'm on my deathbed. Like, he's not going to be here forever, and we are not succeeding right now, even with him on the team. So to appease him in every single way possible and give him $50 million a year is just not good business for a team. And look, I'm not an Aaron Rodgers hater. Aaron Rodgers is my favorite player, but I'm a Packers fan first, and I need to think about what's
good for the team.
Good for the team going forward. And it may not be what's good for Aaron Rodgers going forward, and he kind of just has to accept that, because no player should be bigger than the team, and if a player starts to become bigger than the team, that's when you run into issues, because a player does not win the Super Bowl. It's not the NBA where LeBron James can win you back-to-back NFL or NBA championships. NFL, it's a team sport, and we need to make sure we're doing the best for the team. And with that, Rodgers should have success. But if we're completely eliminated, I think we need to let Love take the reins, see what we have in there, so we can either trade him or decide, hey, we have something in Love, and we're gonna, explore that. But if we just let Rodgers play meaningless games and just to play because we're paying him, that's not helping the team moving forward. We're just, giving the fans a show for the game that they paid for and going home, and maybe we win, maybe we don't, and make a worse draft pick, but it's not helping us really achieve the ultimate goal, which is winning a Super Bowl. And look, we've had 15 years of great play and then get to the playoffs and lose. And that's not enough for me. I don't know about for you guys, but like, I want to win it all again. Like that's why I watch this, and if we are not working towards winning a Super Bowl, we're just working to keeping Rodgers happy or being mediocre or whatever. Like that's not good enough in my opinion. And that's where someone's going to get fired in the front office. So I think we need to man up and we need to say, what's the best situation for the Packers moving forward? And if there's hell to pay because of it, then there's hell to pay. But that's my opinion, but we'll see. All right, cool. So are you guys want to sign off?
Let me make
you have anything else to add?
Go ahead.
Let
me make one final thing. So I fear that it wouldn't end up of this relationship with the Favre Rodgers, how it started back then, but it could of how they put Rodgers in when Favre was a quarterback and Rodgers came in. You saw how awkward and how annoying that was, especially for Brett Favre. He couldn't take that. So I'm wondering, how will Rodgers react when they put Jordan Love in? That's my one question.
I'm not worried about it. See, that's the thing, is we can't be worried about that.
I know.
Because look at Ted Thompson, right? I'll let you get to it. I don't mean to cut you off, but
there you go.
At the moment, who was public enemy number one in Green Bay when he made that switch?
Him.
Ted Thompson, right?
Yeah.
Looking back on it, right? Now that we have the time of hindsight, who was right?
Well, you had the toilet bowl or the Super Bowl is what the fans said at Ted Thompson. And
But who was right? Answer the question.
Ted Thompson.
Right. So looking back, Ted Thompson's biggest impact on this team, that wasn't necessarily drafting Rodgers. Obviously, we wouldn't have the option if we didn't pick Rodgers. So that was great for him. But Rodgers kind of fell in his lap and he just made the pick, right? Really, what I give Ted Thompson a lot of credit for was when everybody else in Wisconsin, everybody else was telling him, do not lose Favre. You have everything going for you with Favre, right? He said, no, I know what I'm seeing. I'm trusting my gut here. And my gut's telling me that Rodgers is ready and Rodgers has a longer time horizon than what Brett Favre does. So sure, could Brett Favre be the easy fix and maybe help us win a Super Bowl this year? Maybe, but Rodgers is the real deal. And if I put him in and I let him run this team, one, we're not going to give Favre more money for only a few years, but two, he's going to carry this franchise for the next 10, 15 years. Could he have fallen on his face and looked like an idiot? Sure. But he was right and he trusted his gut. And I think that's kind of what we didn't do here is, I don't know how you guys felt after the 49ers game, but to me, I felt like we were screwed. And I thought that Rodgers wasn't coming back. And I felt sadness in that, sure. But yeah. I thought that we were going to suck for many years forward. I think we kind of took back, instead of accepting that fate and saying, okay, well, how can we lower the rebuild time here? We said, all right, fuck it. Give Rodgers $50 million. Let's not trade him. Let's not get any assets for him. Let's bring it in and run it back. Let's run it back. But then we said, oh, shit, but wait, Davante Adams isn't coming back. And that was really the crux of our offense was Davante Adams. And then, our offensive line isn't really that good anymore. And Bakhtiari is not a top anymore. And then we sat there and said, well, we have an Asian quarterback that we just gave $50 million to and receivers that are young and need to develop. And Rodgers really has no patience for it. And it just doesn't match up. And our offensive line is young and it doesn't match up. So now we're kind of like this, right? And we're not where
Yeah, choose a side.
We're in no man's land, in my opinion.
Yeah, choose a side.
But sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah. My one question I would probably ask for you guys, but what the theory could be is like, if you have Jordan Love and let's say the Packers are done, they're not winning or making the postseason, and they tank and they get a high pick, but during that time you still have Jordan Love developing and doing that, do you just trade Jordan Love and draft the quarterback?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And then just let Rodgers take over, but then just like let to see how it plays out in news chance, because then people get more hopes with Jordan Love. My opinion, he's just an average quarterback. I haven't seen that much flash. I mean, we didn't have much progress with him. He only started one NFL game, but every time I've seen him, he gets like annoyance of like, all right, he's frantic. He's like a rookie quarterback. Like, can he make the play? He's shown flashes, but he doesn't do it all the time. But in my view, if we are tanking, let's say, for the rest of the season, Jordan Love's playing, I trade Jordan Love towards the Commanders or the Colts because they have a terrible quarterback situation. Try to get like at least a second or third round pick because he's not worth a first round pick by the time. And the Colts were interested in Jordan Love during that draft time. So if you trade Jordan Love to the Colts, you get a draft pick, but then you still tanking, you draft the quarterback, like let's say Bryce Young, for example, or somebody good from college right now. And you have that, but you're still having Rodgers go, but you keep developing with all the like the receivers, all the young core, because basically we're a young team except Rodgers. He's the only old veteran that's in the place. So you just let to see what Rodgers does. And if he does nothing, then bye-bye Rodgers. I'm sorry. I love the guy, but you got to cut it through. And like, it's going to be the end. And you're going to have to.
And I think you're making total sense. I think if there's one path forward here that makes a lot of sense is hopefully we do good this year. Hopefully Carson's right. We get in the 7th seed. We make a run for the Super Bowl, and everything's good. I think what we need to do is if it doesn't go that route and we let Love show off, then what he's made of, hopefully he proves himself a little bit. Then we could trade him, like you said, because at this point, I don't think you could give Love a contract with what Rodgers is being owed. No. So I think you have to trade Love and let's not let him walk. If we let him walk, that's really a complete and utter waste of time, right?
Yeah.
So you need to get some kind of trade value. And by proving him in this time, that will hopefully build up his trade value, or it'll prove to us he sucked and we really fucked up. But then, like you said, if we have Rodgers for a year or two more, if we use a high draft pick on a good quarterback, basically put him in the position Love was in 5 years ago where there was no path because Rodgers was going to play for another 6 years. If he sits behind Rodgers for 2 years and then, what do you call it? Takes over in 3 years, that's ideal. That's the ideal situation. That's what you'd love to see. And then you still have 2 years of his rookie contract left. And I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. And I think that's the best path forward.
Yep.
And continue to develop these younger guys. And then hopefully in 2 or 3 years, we got a better team. But I think that's your best forward. And again, that's super long term. We'll see where that lands. But I think you're making a lot of sense. But yeah.
That's what I always wondered. Yeah, that's why I wonder with Rodgers, like the Packers, like, excuse me. That's why I wonder is like, are we just going to go after a quarterback? Or are we just going to like, let's see how Jordan Love develops? Because we've seen him 3 years and we've seen like with our famous quarterbacks, the Packers, like Bart Starr, he sat under 5 years, I believe, on the bench for quarterback. Rodgers for 3 years. And then Favre, I believe, was 1 or 2 years. He came in for Don Mikowski, who got hurt in the game, and he leads the Packers to a game-winning touchdown against the Bengals. No, game-winning field goal against the Bengals. But anyway, you guys see how these guys develop. But that's my question is like with Jordan Love, you don't see much flashing. But like at this point, if they don't like, they gotta know the front office has to know something if he's gonna be good or not. Like you mentioned with who was it? Devondre Campbell said on a podcast the other day, it's like, hey, he's better than a lot of these quarterbacks. So I need like the front office has to make decisions like, is he going to be the guy that's going to help the Packers? Like when Rodgers leaves, is he going to be the guy? If he's not, get rid of him at this point and like tank and get a quarterback because you get a higher value and he's probably going to be a better quarterback, but much higher risk to see if he's a quarterback bust or not. So that's what I'm wondering because you could just basically have a system quarterback with Jordan Love, but you could have a star franchise quarterback if you tank. Make your pick.
I agree. All right. So, Carson, you have anything else? I don't want to, in case you wanted that to, nope. All right, cool. All right, so I think we'll probably end it there. We've been going for quite a bit of time now. It's probably one of our longer episodes. So I appreciate you sticking with us, Carson. And I know we've had some people in the chat for quite a bit, so I really appreciate. Seems like you got some viewership here, Jeremy, from your Phillies World Series, which is great.
Paying off.
Congrats to the Phillies for their season. I know they didn't pull it out at the end, but I think they completely overachieved in the playoffs. So congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Wanted them just to make postseason.
Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to start off with letting Carson kind of plug his efforts on Instagram, I believe, and then we'll just let everyone know where to find us, and hopefully, some of these viewers that we had this season or this episode follow us on Twitter at PackReacts Podcast, and definitely see what future shows we have. We're going to try to get the podcast on Twitter as well, so it's not just necessary to watch on YouTube. We're still trying to figure that out, but yeah, I'll let Carson take it away.
All right, my Instagram is packer.place. You want more Packers news, and then I have a YouTube channel called The Caldwell Corner. That's it.
Awesome. Definitely. I already follow the Packer.place. I think, Jeremy, you've been following him, right? So
yes,
I'm definitely going to get on some of your content. It seems like, you have a nice following and put up great content. So thanks for adding to the Packer blogosphere, as they call it, right? Okay, Jeremy, go ahead.
All right, so you guys know where to find me on my YouTube channel, right here. Other stuff that you can find me on is my Instagram, which is just my name and last name, Jeremy Hadler. Other stuff, I am on Twitter, but I don't do much. I more do PackReacts with Mike. That's the most where I'll do, but I let Mike take over it usually. But with YouTube, newest video that'll probably be coming out is next weekend, if I can get it filmed, which I will, is working the Baltimore Ravens Carolina Panthers game day. So try to get another vlog of that and combine my first one when it was against the Bills and Ravens, and now the Ravens and Panthers. So try to combine that as a new video. And then another video that'll coming out is a reaction as a Phillies fan to this fun season to watch. So that's the news on the YouTube. But yeah.
Yeah, and then you can find me on Twitter. It's Arvo15. But I've been running the PackReacts podcast page on Twitter, and that's been my baby thing. So I enjoy that. I like conversing with everyone on Twitter. And if you don't like what I'm saying, please feel free to push back. I really like the dialogue and debate. So it isn't fun if it's not a two-way conversation. So PackReacts Podcast. I have an Instagram, Titletown Memes, not as successful as Carson's over here. I have a few followers, but I don't really put much time into it. So, but yeah, feel free to follow me there. And then, just really Twitter is the main thing, and obviously on the PackReacts Podcast. But yeah, I think that's it for today. Thank you if anyone watched us the whole time and sat through the hour 45 minutes of us ranting about how we feel about the Packers. We really appreciate it. But thank you, Carson, for joining. We've been trying to get this off the ground, get some more Packers fans to speak about their, fandom and, just kind of their life as Packers fans. So we really appreciate you joining. And if anyone's watching would like to join as well, feel free to reach out to Jeremy or myself. And, we'd love to have you on as well. And Carson, hopefully we could have you back, in the near future. Hopefully when the Packers run the table and, sneak into that 7th seed, you could come in and laugh at me.
Talking about.
Yeah. You come and laugh at me. I'll have to let you run the podcast.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so thanks guys for joining, and thanks to anyone who's watching. And you want to sign us off, Jeremy? That's usually your job.
As always, guys, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
All right.
Are we off?
I believe so. Hold on. Nope, we are off. Sweet.
Now we're off?
Yes, bro.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I appreciate you sticking us, Carson. I thought it was a great conversation, so I really appreciate your insight.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and again, if you feel free to reach out, and we'd love to have you on in the future. Cool. And definitely be following your page, and hopefully see some great content out of you.
Yeah, hopefully.
Perfect. All right, cool. All right, Jeremy. So I guess we'll catch up later on about next week.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, have a good night, guys. It was nice meeting you, Carson.
Yeah, you too.
All right. Yep.
See ya.
See ya.